Greetings, MechWarriors. This is Black Sea. For the last year or so that I've been making guides, they've been mostly targeted towards players who had maybe a couple of months of experience or more. I've never really done anything for the brand new player, so today I'd like to do one specifically for the first week or the first month players. If you're a few months into the game, I think you'll get some good info from this video as well, but I'm going to spend more time explaining some fundamentals that you may already know, so this is going to be a kind of a long video. The topic that I want to address is one that gets asked a lot in the official forums and on the various MWO subreddits. And that topic is, which mech should I buy first? So why did I choose this? Well, not only is it asked very often, but also I think I can provide a pretty good answer to this question as well. After reading through a lot of the existing answers, I think many of the choices offered by experienced players were made through a few narrow criteria. For example, a lot of the answers were flavor of the month metamechs, or a mech that's just kind of to get you started in the game, because it was affordable, or a mech that was just really difficult to play. Of course, there were well thought out answers as well, but I hope to give players my perspective on the question. First, I'm going to lay out my criteria for my selection. Number 1, it has to be new player friendly, meaning it has to work well in the T5 or T4 queue, and it should be pretty easy to play. Number 2, the chassis should have longevity, meaning that it can't be severely hurt by quirk changes. Longevity also means that it should be a good mech after you've gotten experienced. After all, your Z-builds in time is an investment, and you want that to last even if PGI makes balance changes to the game. Number 3, it should be affordable after your academy payout, your cadet bonus, and the match earnings from your first 25 games. Number 4, it can serve as a staple mech for your faction play drop deck, since FP is a great way to earn more mech bays and other rewards for free. Number 5, it should have build variety, meaning that there's not just one or two builds that work on the mech. When there's build variety, it keeps you interested in the chassis and the game overall. Based on the criteria I just laid out, my choice is the Hellbringer, specifically the Hellbringer Prime, using the 6 ER medium laser build. I'm currently on a new T4 account lent to me by Stoneblade, and that has went through the first 25 games already, so thanks very much Stone for saving me a lot of game time there. So after your first 25 games, and going through the academy, you should have roughly between 15 and 20 million Z-bills. And that is sufficient to buy all the things that we need. If you don't, just play a few more games and you should get there soon. So let's go and build it right now. Alright, so first we go to the store, select Battle Mechs, go to the Heavies, and we have a bunch of choices here in the Hellbringer. So the reason why we picked the Hellbringer Prime is because it has a lot of the weapons and a lot of the equipment that we need. You could also choose the Hellbringer A, but you will find that you will see that you will need to buy a lot more equipment if you buy the A, so we're just going to go with the Hellbringer Prime for now. Alright, and let's get into the Mech Lab. Alright. Strip this mech. Okay, so for the lower tiers, you can start off with a little bit higher back armor. I think as you get more experienced, you can lower the back armor quite a bit. And for me, I'm doing somewhere between 5 and 3 points for most of my mechs. So you know, the choice is going to be yours, but this is kind of the armor allocation that I would recommend, at least the back and front armor allocation that I would recommend in the Hellbringer. Increase the leg armor to about 50-ish, and we'll probably be able to adjust this later on. We're going to increase the left arm armor to max, and I think we have 8 left over, so we're going to bump this up so that it reaches 40. Well, let's wait. Let's see what happens here. We need to buy another Omnipod for the left arm. So we're going to get the 2 energy Hellbringer A left arm. We're going to need a different head, so the Hellbringer A head. Alright, so we're going to put one medium laser here, 3 medium lasers on the left torso. We will need a targeting computer and a ECM. On the left arm, we can put in 2 medium lasers. And let's fill up the rest of the tonnage with heat sinks. It's a very simple build, as you can see. Alright, we do have a bit more tonnage, so... Okay, so... heatsink, heatsink, heatsink... Oh, we can't do any more, so let's bump this... Let's bump up the legs a little bit more. That's pretty much where we want it. Notice that we left off the lower arm actuators. The reason is because we don't want horizontal movement on the arm and like relative to the torso. So what that will do is help you put the torso and arm lasers on the same target a little bit better. So we're going to spend 1.3 million in addition to the initial purchase to make this build work. So let's go ahead and just save that. Once we save that, we can go into the weapon groups and then start changing things around here. So as you'll notice, the left arm weapons are going to be to the left of the left torso weapons here, right? So I like to have, my first mouse button be my left mouse button be firing my leftmost weapon group, and my second mouse button firing the weapon group that's a little bit towards the right. So what we're gonna do is to put these two arm lasers on the first weapon group and put all 4 torso ER medium lasers on the second weapon group here, and so we can go ahead and save that. And I think this is where we want it. So let's evaluate this build based on the criteria that are previously set out. Number 1, is it easy to play? I think so. We're going to have 2 weapon groups and 1 single range to work with. The ERMLs are mid-range weapons, which is great because mid-range works virtually on every map in MWO. Lasers are easy to aim, so no need for leading projectile weapons. This build won't run into heat issues either unless you ignore the heat warning and fire non-stop. The ECM is very good to have in the beginner tiers because of the amount of LRMs in those tiers. And if you find yourself out of position, there's a possibility that you might not have been seen and you can get back into your position. Now, normally in the higher tiers, radar deprivation is a must-have module because it breaks LRM locks very effectively, and it also helps to take you off of the enemy team's radar. But the module costs 6 million C-bills and 15,000 GXP. If you have ECM though, enemy mechs often can't get a lock on you at all, so the module isn't as necessary. In fact, I don't take radar deprivation on my ECM mechs even now, just because there are typically more important modules to take on an ECM mech. You must remember though that although ECM prevents radar locks, enemies can still see you visually, especially as you get closer, and they can shoot you with direct fire weapons. They can also get a lock on you once they get within 200 meters, so try and stay at your weapon's optimal range. Don't rely on the ECM to make you invincible. Rather, think of it as something that buys you more time. Looking at some of the alternatives to the Hellbringer, there have been a lot of people who recommended the Timberwolf, but the Timberwolf requires better positioning, maneuvering, and heat management to maximize the potential of the mech, so they're not nearly as newbie friendly. Plus, Timbers tend to draw a lot of fire, leading to quick deaths if you're not careful. Number 2, does this chassis have longevity? And I think the answer is yes as well. The Hellbringer has been a top tier or upper mid-tier mech ever since its introduction. The primary reasons is its array of high mounted energy and ballistic hardpoints, and ECM. So while PGI's quirk system tends to change Innisphere's mechs frequently up and down the ladder, The top clan mechs don't rely on quirks to be good, so you can expect the chassis to remain relevant for the foreseeable future. We saw this problem happen earlier in 2015 when a lot of players recommended Thunderbolts, specifically the 5SS, as a beginner mech. After a series of nerfs, the 5SS weren't all that amazing anymore, and the Hellbringers are certainly better than the 5SS now. Number 3, is it affordable with the cadet bonus and the academy payouts? The answer is yes as well, as we just saw. We spent a little bit over 15 million for everything that we needed, and we even have some left over in our case. If you have the GXP and extra 3 million C-bills, I would recommend unlocking and buying the ER Medium Laser Range module. This module will help not just for this build, but most other popular clan builds use ER Medium Lasers as well. Number 4, can it serve as a staple mech for your FP drop deck? And my answer is yes, and here's why. PGI has occasionally changed the drop deck tonnage anywhere between 230 and 260 tons. Since you'll need 3 of a mech to elite it, you're probably going to buy 2 more variants of your first chassis anyway. And those 3 mechs will probably be a part of your FP drop deck. So if your first mech is a medium or a lighter, such as Stormcrow, then you need a larger assault to fill up the last slot if the tonnage limit is around the higher end. Unfortunately, the larger assaults have several problems in faction play. First, they're large and slow targets, and I think new players are just going to have a hard time with it. Second, they're weight inefficient. Even though they can carry more weaponry, their damage output is largely limited by heat, so you're not getting that much more out of assaults than heavies. Third, they're expensive for new players to own, so it's possible that you may have to enter FP with a trial assault at first, which is not a great idea. Fourth, because of slowness, it's difficult to keep up with the team as they maneuver around the map. If you go with 365 tonners though, that gives you a ton of good choices for your last mech. Clans have several fast, weight-efficient choices between the 30 and 65 ton range. For example, the Arctic Cheetah, the Stormcrow, Ebon Jaguar, or if you want the Hellbringer, if you want a 4th Hellbringer. Number 5, does it have build variety? And the Hellbringer has that because of the clan's Omnipod system. With the Hellbringer, you can basically build a new mech just by buying new Omnipods and weapons, which should cost you less than 1 million C-bills in total. I'm going to show you a few other builds that I enjoy playing in the solo queue. This is essentially a higher alpha, longer range, but hotter version of the 6 ERML build. We simply swap out 2 ERMLs and 9 heatsinks for 2 large pulse lasers. Once you're better at managing heat and engaging at long range, I would say this build is actually better than the 6 ER medium laser version. This build is a good way to get started on clan ballistics. We use the same Omnipods as the 6 ER medium laser build, but we remove a few heatsinks and 3 lasers for 2 UX5s on the right torso. Autocannon builds usually have low alpha but high DPS, so the best way to play these builds is to shoot an enemy that's already engaged with friendlies. That way you have sufficient time to get your damage out. Once you're more experienced, you can try out the Gauss rifle, and this build is one of my favorites on the Hellbringer. By the time you run this build, you probably are better at making sure you're not shot from the back, so I've moved some armor up front from the back. Although this build isn't as strong as it once was, it strikes a good balance between alpha size and DPS, and for me at least, hitting with the Gauss is really satisfying. This build takes the Hellbringer out of the mid-range into the short range. You'll notice we swapped out for a Hellbringer B right torso and added Artemis to make the SRM6 groupings tighter. Although the Hellbringer isn't one of the best brawlers, the small pulse laser and SRMs deliver excellent short-range DPS, which should bring down most mechs in a few salvos. Use your ECM to sneak up on enemies and try to concentrate damage on their most important components, like the center and side torsos. Making sure you put damage in proper locations is important, since you can't take much return fire, so your best bet is to kill the enemy mech as fast as possible. I would say this is definitely one of the more advanced builds because of how glass cannon-y it is, but it works pretty well. Lastly, the Hellbringer can be an okay LRM platform as well. I don't really run this build because I think there are far better LRM platforms for clan mechs, such as the Mad Dog. But if you want to see what it's like running the clan LRMs, then this will work just fine. Here as well, I've moved the armor up front because ideally you're in the middle of your group raining missiles on the enemy, and so you shouldn't be shot in the back at all. Now let's get back to the 6 ER medium laser build. Before you take this into game, make sure your mount sensitivity is adjusted correctly. This is a problem I see with a lot of newer players where their laser burn gets pasted all over an enemy mech. I found that a good way to practice your aim and adjust your mouse sensitivity is a little exercise you can do in training grounds on Frozen City Night. If you go to B3 and look to your right, there's a cataphract about 300 meters away from your position. Press 0 on your numpad to go full throttle and move towards this building here at C3. As you move, turn and try to put most of your laser damage on the cataphract CT. Of course, it's not likely that you'll put everything on the CT, but you'll know you're doing pretty well if you're able to kill the cataphract before its other components are cored out. There are other similar positions on other maps, and you can do the same exercise on.
Target acquired. Target destroyed.
Now that we have our settings sorted out, let's get into an actual game. If you've seen my videos before, I'm going to do this gameplay segment in a different way. I'll be momentarily pausing the video to go over some decisions I make in the game. This will make it kind of lengthy, but hopefully it's worth your time. So let's get into it. Okay, this game we're on Polar Highlands. Another map that starts off long range and gets closer as the match progresses. I think it's another good demo of like how to, exercise patience in a match, and wait for the engagement to get into your range. Or, sometimes making your own opportunities. So for the first couple of minutes, we're just kind of just trying to find the enemy, and so I'm going to skip a little bit. But in general, when this happens in the beginning, stick with the team. Don't go too far off. You're in a not super fast mech, so you gotta be able to get back to your team quickly if you're out of position. So you're not like a light mech that can just scout all over the place, like in the beginning. So skip a little bit here. Okay. See, I'm a little bit away from the team, not too far away. Seven Jaguars looking at something. I think there was a large pulse beam like somewhere over here, just a couple of seconds ago. Still looking, making sure we're not too far away. This is about as far away as I want to go from the team. So you see movement here, right? So we report that to the team. We don't want to approach that by ourselves. Our team is still right here, so I'm gonna try to maybe get back to the team a bit. He's asking how many, but I don't know. Okay, so we got a target acquisition on this thing, but I think it's an Evan Jaguar, but he might not have seen me right now, and he's probably going to be longer range than me, I'm thinking. So we're going to try to go back to our team. We're trying to get back, first of all, get back into cover, which we have this little hill here to protect us, so we're going to get back into cover and then try to move towards our team. We saw that Timberwolf over there as well. Don't know. It's too far. Okay, so this approach is okay. Ideally, there's like a little gully for us to move through, but here's some low ground that we want to get to, and then we're gonna approach from here to this direction where we saw that timber wolf. And if we can approach here, then we might be able to wrap around and hit the Ebon Jaguar as well. So we'll see what happens. Polar Highlands actually has pretty decent cover if you know how to use it. Um, I Again, I'm not sure about the range of the Ebon Jaguar. I'm going to assume the worst and I'm going to assume that it has like large pulse lasers or something. So I'm going to hide. I'm going to go into this gully over here and not try to be exposed. So sometimes you have to kind of make assumptions about their builds. Okay, so we have something of 500 meters over here. That's in range for us, but we of course need to make sure we approach that correctly. We need to avoid this thing over here too. I don't know what it is. Looks like a marauder from the shape, but like I'm gonna again assume that it has something long range and try to get under cover. We don't really want to poke from the right side. We ideally want to poke from the left side, but you see there's mechs looking at that left side, so maybe the right side is going to be a little bit more convenient for us in this case. Because we don't have advanced seismic, and actually advanced seismic is something that you want to get as soon as you can. But we don't have advanced seismic, so um, we have to round corners very carefully. Okay, something over here. This seems kind of close. I didn't get. Okay, it's 100 meters. I'm gonna worry about these two guys. I want to hit this guy, but I'm going to take a little bit of a risk and think I'm gonna assume that these guys are not going to be able to hit me. Okay, we got a good shot on the left torso on the Timberwolf, the LRM Timberwolf. I'm going to keep focusing on that left torso if possible, but that wasn't the case. Okay, we see this guy approaching here, so we got to be careful. We don't want to we don't really want to get into 2v2 or 2v1 situations. Okay, so I took a shot over at that guy, but I really should be shooting here. Okay, Hunchback. I can either shoot the CT or shoot this right torso, but since I got the shot on the CT first, I'm probably going to try to focus more on the CT in that case. But we actually took off his left torso. Um, Now, here's something that's problematic for us. We didn't see all these mechs. We didn't see all these mechs over here when we made that approach. This is problematic. So we see all this stuff here and we want to get into cover as quickly as possible. Now, if we see all these mechs, the first thing we want to do is protect that left torso, which is where all of our weapons are. So we're going to turn this direction. I think ACM helped us here a little bit because I wasn't getting shot. I think if it was the higher tiers, I would have lost something. I would have lost a component. But we were lucky in this case. They didn't shoot us, and I think that kind of goes to show like how important how useful the ECM is in this tier. That would have been kind of bad, like in my actual tier. So we got a shot on the Nova. Again, I really want to poke from the left, and they're looking at the right side over here. So I want to try to use like perhaps this little hill here to provide cover for myself. But these are a little bit further away, so let's see what we can do. Okay, so this is kind of a, even though you see this is kind of a little bit far for us, we're kind of getting free damage, so it's not that bad. Okay, so we got two pokes in. It's getting too far away, and so we're not gonna poke there anymore. Again, I'm just looking for these opportunities to shoot, and even though this side is not ideal, I'm still gonna try it anyways. I'm gonna try to use. I want to try to use this hill for cover. Again, hoping for a left side poke. Okay, so we see something here. So now you can see we're kind of isolating any mechs that are over here and maybe any mechs over here. So we only have one thing to shoot at, and this is right within, kind of within our range. So LRM5 Kintaro, often it's an XL build, not necessarily, but we'll see. Since we have a side profile to shoot at, that we're gonna try to do as much damage to the side as possible. Okay, I got gauze from something that I couldn't see. Maybe my torso was too exposed over here, but you see right now our left torso is open, so we got to be quite careful from now on. Okay, this is a little bit of a risky approach because I see just two mechs here, and then I have at least three mechs over here. So I feel like we have a slight advantage on this side. Even though this thing is looking at me, um, I'm gonna try to engage this side a little bit, so that Evan Jaguar can quickly see that he had an open CT. I was trying to use this cover to isolate this Evan Jaguar from whatever this was over here. So if I can get this guy by itself, maybe one or two shots I can take him out. But unfortunately this guy was over here too. Oh, well, I killed him. He was apparently very hurt. Um, as soon as I took the shot, I torso twisted to make sure that whatever this guy was doing, he was gonna hit my right side. Okay, so this Evan Jaguar is kind of fresh. I see more blips over here, so this is not going to be good for us. You can see this is like a 3v, kind of 3 situation over here, so I don't really want to continue focusing on this direction, especially with a fresh Evan Jaguar. So it's time to GTFO, I think. And we lost one of the guys over here, so it's kind of like at least a 3v2, and these guys are not here to really support us. So we're gonna move this direction while protecting our left torso here. You see, we're trying not to expose our back too much, but you know, we're kind of walking this direction while exposing our right torso to the enemies over here. I can't see if they have a shots on me, but I'm gonna assume that they do, and you're gonna try to protect the left torso as much as possible. And I've successfully gotten out of the way. Lots of stuff here, but this is a little bit better because we are able to do a left side poke. We don't need to expose as much, so this is going to be my preferred side to engage from. These mechs are within range, but because how close they are, I'm gonna have to be very careful if I want to poke that. But let's see, from now you can kind of see they're eager to ridge poke over us, so we don't really even have to expose ourselves. We can just wait for these guys to come over. You can kind of tell from how they're moving, right? What their intention is. So because of this UAV here, again, shoot and torso twist to protect that torso. We don't want to be too close to them, and so we gotta use some of our range to our advantage. keep the enemy in front of you. Try not to expose your back. So we're reversing. We're not actually just turning around and running away. We're reversing. Right? Okay, we got a torso off of that timber. I think that timber lost all of its weapons now. Got a good shot on the Hunchback CT. It's wide open, so it's okay. It goes down. See, I'm running slightly hot, so I didn't have a really good shot on whatever this was. So I just forgot. I just didn't take that shot because I didn't want to waste heat on a bad shot. Now we took care of two of those mechs over here, so it's actually safer to approach. I think that Timberwolf sticked. We're gonna try to shoot it anyways. Yeah, it sticked. But we didn't have anything else to shoot at really. Okay, except for this Nova here. Good thing the Nova shot whoever that was, and not me. Those ER smalls are is really dangerous, so you gotta be careful of that Nova. Small pulse ER smalls. Okay, we're backing up to gain range. You gotta, you really try to, you need to try to get use use your ER mediums to your advantage. So try to stay at the 400-meter range if possible. Okay, at that range, you see the Nova is not going to be very effective against us. Okay, target's too small over here, but what I really want to shoot at is these two bigger mechs over there. Got a good shot on the Nova. Two back shots on the Nova. Again, I don't have a good shot on this. I really want to shoot this again, but I don't have a good shot, so I'm going to move on to this Marauder. You can see something's behind us, but at least it's being engaged by one of our teammates, so at least I need to know what it was, right? Okay, so I'm going to put a shot on the Arctic Cheetah's leg. You see we cored out its leg right now. I took the shot before getting a readout on the Arctic Cheetah. If I knew it was CT cord, I would shoot the CT, but in general, like, you want to shoot the legs on the lights if you don't have any target info. Okay, we can get a good peek on this Kintaro. We can use this slope over here, which will silhouette most of our torso when we peek over. Okay, we opened up its right torso, as you can see. We're going to try to take off its right torso. And it was running an XL, so it died. Okay, now we got the loadout on the Marauder. What we're going to try to focus on its torsos. We're trying to take off its torsos, which contains its weapons. We see this over here, but I think our team is going to be able to take care of this thing over here. And Marauders are pretty tough. But we got an arm. See, on that side, the arm does protect the torso a little bit. So if we aimed a little bit higher, we could have taken off that torso. Okay, we took off all of its weapons now. So we can pretty much just ignore this. But I didn't have anything else to shoot at, so. Alright, so I was trying to conserve my heat. I could have alpha'd him, but I knew this Wolfhound was coming, so I only put 4 lasers into that Marauder. I was trying to conserve the heat for this Wolfhound. But I misjudged a little bit and I shut down. Okay, so based on how fast that Wolfhound is running, I'm thinking it's running a standard engine. It's not running an XL. So Normally with lights, a lot of times they either take off the leg or try to take off a side torso, but in this case, yeah, I can see the CT's open, so I'm gonna try to go for its CT actually. Again, shield after you fire because of that. My left torso is already open. Okay. Okay, so there you go. It lost the CT. I was pretty sure it was a standard engine build. Generally, I would recommend XL engines on Wolfhounds. Being slow just makes you easier to shoot. I don't know. It kind of defeats the purpose of, like, it makes you actually less safe than an XL engine if you run standard. Okay, so lastly, we're just kind of like looking for this guy. I'm gonna skip over a little bit. Found him. He gets killed. Did pretty well. Okay, so I know that's a lot of information to take in. But again, it's made for new players, so hopefully that's a sufficient detail, and I hope that's actually really helpful for you guys. And maybe, for some people who are like 1 year less of experience, I think this might be helpful as well. Let me know in the comments below whether you think you need more detail or like less detail for new player guides. All right, thanks for watching, and if you have any suggestions, comments, let me know. Please like this video if you think it was helpful, and please subscribe to my channel for more videos like this. All right, thanks a lot. See you later.